Hello, how are you today? We've had a little bit of rocking and rolling, and that's what makes it really, really good. When the enemy's bothering us, when we're trying to connect, that means it's going to be an even better program than we originally intended.
That's right.
So good to see you, Tammy. How are you today?
I am good. It is so good to see you. I love every time I'm with you. It's cold, wet, and rainy here in Texas, but it's cold, wet, and rainy in a lot of places.
Yes, it is. And miraculously, it's 74 degrees outside here in Atlanta.
Oh, my.
But it's going to be 26 Friday, so it evens out.
Hello, South.
Oh, yes. Viewers, we're so glad that you're here. We've got a great program for you. I'm asking, are you considering or have you already added the term speaker to your resume? When you decide to take that leap, immediately a question comes to mind, doesn't it? What should I charge? And then if you've been doing it for a while, whether that's for free or for paid, then eventually at some point another question comes to mind. When should I raise my prices? Today we're going to find out. Hi, I'm Patricia Durkin, and this is Marketers on a Mission. We present marketing tutorials and interviews by and for Christian writers, speakers, and artists. This month, as you know, we are presenting the Right Start Online Summit. 20 experts are sharing 20 secrets in 20 days, and actually we're in the bonus week, so we're going to end up with 25 of all of that. Wow! We are wealthy beyond belief. This is episode number 234, Titles and Tough Conversations with motivational speaker Tammy Whitehurst. So glad that you joined us, Miss Whitehurst.
Thank you. You can call me Tammy.
Let me see what's going on really quickly. How long have you been speaking? And how did you know, Tammy? This is a better question, perhaps. Or how did you know that it was time? How did you hear that Holy Spirit? How did He just reveal to you this is the next path for you?
I've been speaking full-time for about 7 years. I've been speaking for about 10, but if you go back further than that, I was doing speeches in high school, and then I actually became a teacher. I taught middle school for several years before I ever did what I do now. But I will say that I had been teaching middle school for about 10 years, and I could tell that the Holy Spirit was doing a shift, that God was kind of doing a shift in me and taking me a different direction. You know, whether I am a teacher in a public school or whether I am teaching women at a conference, a retreat, any type of women's event like that, I'm still teaching. And so I know that the Lord, that is what I'm supposed to be doing. The Lord used my public education years to help me better to be able to do what I do, because I use a lot of humor when I talk. And so He put me in middle school, and there is no place that you can learn better humor than in middle school, because if you're going to teach a middle school student how to learn, you've got to keep it funny, and you got to keep it real. And so that's what I try to do as a speaker as well. But I know a lot of times we try to put limits on God. Probably nobody does that but me. But I didn't think God could. I never would have thought that I would do what I do now. And whenever I started, and when I say that, what I mean by that is I thought I wanted to be an FBI agent. Undercover FBI agent. Yes, can you imagine this being undercover anything? But when I look back now, and I can actually see how God was training me all the way. And I'm going to tell you, Patricia, He's still training me, because I am one of those people who's a lifelong learner. And I believe that learning makes us better. In the moment that we think that we have learned everything, or that we have arrived and we know everything, we are about to fall apart. True. So we've got to always keep learning.
I so appreciate that wisdom. It's true. The most professional people, the most successful people, they say that also. That's a sign of maturity and supernatural knowledge. So we honor that. Kristen?
Well, I would like to, if you don't mind, I know I've said this the last time that I spoke with you, and thank you for asking me to speak again for you. I appreciate that. But I always try as a speaker. In Acts 20:24, it tells us, but my life is worth nothing unless I use it for doing the work assigned to me by the Lord Jesus, the work of telling others the good news about God's wonderfulness and love and kindness. And as a speaker, no matter what we speak about, if we are a Christian speaker, I think that sums up what our life's mission should be, because that is what we've got to do. And then I know that what we're talking about today is one of those subjects that is awkward, one of those subjects that makes people have a lump in their throat and a kick in the gut at times. And as I was reading in God's Word this morning, I came across Proverbs 28:25, which said, "Greed causes fighting. Trusting the Lord leads to prosperity." And I think that what you will find whenever I begin to talk today, I kind of center things around that.
Okay.
And so I don't want to jump ahead because I know that I like for you to be the question maker. And you start, and I just wanted to open up with that because when I did come across that proverb today, I thought, oh, I think that needs to be in there. But we'll talk more about that.
I appreciate that opening, and I don't want to linger on this because it's a hot button for me, but I do want to mention it. So if it's a hot button for you, let's not go down that rabbit trail, but let's just touch on it, okay?
Okay.
There are so many people who are Christian writers or speakers, and they have not yet been able to jump over that barrier that's in front of them that says, if you're a Christian, you should not be charging for this message. Okay, so my blood is already coursing just saying that out loud. So let's keep it tight, but what would you respond to them? How would you respond to them?
You know, how are you going to go places and talk about the gift that the Lord has given you and how to teach and to speak and do all of that if you don't have money to put gas in your gas tank? I mean, if you are charging, now there's some times when we will do things for free, and I'll talk about that as well. But you know, in the Bible it says to pay our leaders. In the Bible it talks about paying. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I also don't think there's anything wrong with doing a free one every once in a while.
Yes.
So but that is something that a lot of times, because we're in ministry, and I think the big hurdle is when we are doing something that we love, we think to ourselves, oh gosh, how do I charge for it? Mm-hmm. But I will also share with you that 99.9% of people expect to pay you something. I do think that, and I host one event myself a year with a friend of mine, and well, besides another one that we do, but there's with one friend we do a thing called Summer in the South that we have done before, and she had that same issue at the beginning, and I said people will expect to pay something, and also I pay her. You know, she helps me do it. I pay her, and you know, we don't want to get so caught up on money that money comes before ministry. That's when in Proverbs where it talks about greed. Okay, mm-hmm. Money can't come before ministry. Ministry has to be at the very beginning. That's why we do what we do. Yes. And when we do what we do, if we believe that God is going to provide for us like His Word says He will, then we have to trust in the fact that He will. Yes. And providing for us a lot of times means that we get paid so that we can pay our bills, we can put gas in the gas tank, so we can keep doing what we're doing and spreading it.
Yes. So well said. Viewers, Tammy and I both encourage you, if the Lord has you delivering presentations for free forever or for a time or for a season, whatever, if that's His will for you and that's how He's guiding you, go for it, baby. That's exactly right. What you should be doing. And yet, if the Holy Spirit is on your shoulder saying, it might be time to charge, it might be time to start charging, or it might be time to start raising your prices, then follow that lead and get rid of these lies. Last thing I'll say about this, Jesus Christ is always inviting us to the next level of freedom.
That's right.
And this may be the day that He lifts this burden from you, if indeed it is in place in your life. Okay? Okay, I'm getting excited, Tim. I'm getting excited. Let me tell you who's here. We've got several people here already, really lots of people. Tracy Crump, Marlene Howell, Kayleen Rooser, so good to see you, Kayleen, Christine Harine, Kathy Elliott, Nancy K. Grace, Janet McHenry, Linda Riley, and more that I've already scrolled, Facebook has already scrolled past. So
I know several of those names, so hello, girls. It's good to see you.
It's how did you, when you started, let me segue in. When you started, did you start for no fee at all?
Well, when you start, you're going to get paid everything from a basket to a candle, to a gift card to the grocery store. You know, yeah. You don't start at the beginning thinking that you're going to be making what I'm making it 10 years of doing it. Okay, yes. 7 years full time, 3 years before there I was part time, but it has been a gradual process to get to where I am now. But I will tell you, I just had a group that called me recently, and they told me they wanted me to speak for them, and it was a scholarship fund. So as they're talking about it and the location of where it was and everything, she told me what their budget would allow for a speaker, and it was a good paying job. And I told her, I said, you know what, this is your day. And she said, do what? And I said, when I was a senior in high school, I actually got that scholarship. And so I'm going to do this absolutely for nothing for you. So there are those times whenever you bless others with the gift that God has given you, but you let others bless you financially with the gift that God has given, with what God has given them to give to you. And how does that happen? I will always say that I always ask people to pray about what they can pay a full-time speaker. Pray about that. But in the beginning, those are the lean and mean days. Those are the lean days, in the beginning. And I think a lot of that is you've got to realize, can I do this? Do I want to do this? And you've got to see the bigger picture instead of, just a second, let me turn that off. You've got to see the bigger picture than what you're looking at in the small picture of, oh no, I'm making nothing right now.
Yeah.
And you've got to make ministry first, money second. It cannot be the other way around, or it just won't work. And as it has progressed, I never have set fees. Some people have set fees. I don't have set fees. I work with everyone's budget, whether you are a small group or whether you are a mega church. I work with your budget. And the way that works is I'll have them call me, and we can talk about it that way. There's a lot of ways, and we'll talk about this in a moment. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but there's a lot of ways that a group organizer can bring in the funds to pay a speaker.
Okay. So are you saying, let me back up for just a second. Are you saying, I don't want to misunderstand, that you work, you don't have a set fee range, that you work with each individual opportunity. Does that mean also that you accept each individual opportunity, or is there a stage there that you're contemplating that? And
now this is the part where a lot of people in the business have, for lack of a better term, thought I was not very smart. But I'm going to say that because they have told me, from agents to professional speakers, they have told me, Tammy, you have to have a set fee. The reason why I don't do it that way, Patricia, is because if I have a set fee on my website, or when people call me, if I start at an astronomical price, some people won't even call me.
That's right.
If they see a large price. Some people, they won't email, they won't do anything because they think, oh, I can't afford her.
Mm-hmm.
And if they will just call me, I'm affordable to everyone. That's the way I look at it. I'm affordable to everyone. And I have been told that, Tammy, you're not ever going to be full-time if you don't have set fees. I am full-time. And
it's working out pretty good.
That's right. But I trust the Lord. I trust the Lord that He is going to provide for me. There are some times that I don't even open I don't ever. If I get a check, I don't open that check until I'm on my way home. And the reason why is because no matter what the number is on that check, my job was ministry. And I tell you, God will provide. He always has. And for everyone that you go to, and maybe it's not a huge sum or the sum that you expected, you were there and God will provide on the next one or maybe the next one because you were there because he appointed you to be there. I think a lot of times when we have set fees, we are missing out on the open doors that God is opening for us because we're putting money before ministry.
Okay.
I do very well. And there are some times whenever I open a check and I've cried before because I can't believe that they thought I was worth that much money. Now, I will tell you that there are some individuals who will call and they'll say, Tammy, I have got to have a number. I can't do it on praying or just talking with my team and things like that. We want to know that we're on the same page as you. I can respect that as well. So whenever that happens, my first question is this. Okay, then I'm going to ask you this. What can you afford to pay a full-time speaker? And I also preface it with this. I ask that you pay that in addition to my travel expenses.
Okay. So
yes, my travel expenses, which mean lodging and round-trip fees, round-trip mileage. Whenever I send people, I have a thing called the detail sheet, and it will say on there the question you want to know about fees. That's one of the areas of it. And I will say in there how far I am from them round trip. You add that up. You tell them how many miles from your location to theirs. And then I tell them that I go by the state rate. Every state has a different rate per mile. And then I tell them how many miles it is. I also tell them that as long as I'm in a safe location, I do not need the Ritz-Carlton. You know how I feel about drama mamas and divas and things like that. I don't think there's any place for that in Christian ministry. Women speakers, if you are a diva and if you expect to have all of these fancy first-class rate things, it's not just are you in it for the right reason? That's what you really have to ask for. Because as long as I have a safe place to lay my head down, and what I mean by safe place, there has only been a couple of times when I was put in a hotel that were not so, they were a little bit awkward, but I will say that in both situations, it was because I was in a small town, small church, and all they had was a mom and pop kind of hotel.
Yeah.
But what they did in both situations, they put me right beside the office, and they just made it safe. So let me get back to what your question was. But I asked for lodging, and I asked for round trip. And then in addition to that, please pray about what you would pay a full-time speaker. Now, if somebody does call me and ask me what my fees are, this is where I was going a while ago. I will say to them, what is in your budget to pay a speaker? But I've already talked about how many round-trip miles it is and lodging, okay? That's just expected. People expect to pay for that. That's not a problem at all. And then I'll say, well, what is in your budget for a full-time speaker? Most of the time, they are going to tell you a price that you are going to be thankful for. It is rarely that somebody says something. I did have one this year that somebody called and they gave, when you're doing this, sometimes you're in with somebody who's going to lowball you at the beginning. That's just business. I mean, in their budget, they have so much to spend for the year. And so they're going to see if they can get you at the clearance price.
Yeah, yeah.
And it happens sometimes. And so what I said was, if you think that you could, like she bounced back, and so I bounced back again. Very friendly conversation. You're not offended. This is just the business end of it. And so what I said to her was, well, what if I give every single person one of my speaking CDs to go home with them, and then is there any way you think that you could stretch that up to? All right. She came back and said, no problem whatsoever.
Boom.
So there you go. that is the kind of thing, and even if you don't offer, like I offered her something, if she could bring it up to something. Sometimes I might say, well, is there any way that you could go to, and we'll meet in the middle, or we can meet somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. It's all about talking about what people can afford and what will work for you. I don't have to get paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to walk up on a stage and speak for 1 hour. I'm very content with what the Lord has given me. I know a lot of speakers who they start their fees at $5,000, $10,000. That's where they start it. I don't start fees like that. Have I ever been paid $10,000 to speak? No, I have not. Have I ever? Yeah. Have
Somebody
I ever?
That.
But I will tell you that one time I was paid an astronomical amount. And when I opened the check, I just cried. I mean, I just cried. And then another time, they had put me up in lodging, and I was speaking for a rather large group. And whenever I got there, they had put me up in a very nice hotel, and they gave me the key, and they said, this is going to be your driver also. I said, oh, I don't need a driver. They said, no, we've already got in place. He's going to drive you everywhere that you need to go. Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side of that, they gave me a key that I had never seen a key like this, and that's because it was to the penthouse. That is not anything that I require, but I'm telling you that when something like that happens, give God the glory.
Yes.
Because God loves you so much that he has put you in the penthouse. He loves you so much that he thinks what you have to say is worth that amount written on that check, and it blows you away sometimes. Mm. But there are other times, without going into it, I normally, it's not uncommon for someone to pay you $1,000 once you've been going for 10 years. That's not uncommon at all. And it's not uncommon to get paid $2,500 for to speak at a retreat. Things like that is not uncommon. When you're first starting, that is very uncommon. Okay, that is not what you get paid. Now, do I expect to get paid that way every single time? No. I expect for them to pay what they have prayed about and what they have what they feel like the Lord has told them to do. There are a lot of ways that you can pay for a speaker. One way is to charge admission into the event. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have a problem charging admission into an event. But Patricia, if you don't put some type of fee on a conference, people will not think that it has any credibility, and it must not be that good anyway. And so they might say they're going to go, and then they don't go because, hey, they didn't pay for it anyway. Free events are wonderful. We think that that's a wonderful thing to do and to give to the community, and it is. But it also makes it look like it's really not worth much. If you want to bring people into an event, charge, and then use part of that to pay the speaker. And sometimes people will ask me, well, how can I raise funds to pay a speaker? That's one of the ways that I tell them. I'm not telling you not to scholarship people in or not to let people come for free. Heaven, yes, that at anything that you speak at, there's always those who were scholarshiped in or those that come at a different price. That's just the way it is. But another way that I tell them, and I also they'll say, well, do you come for a love offering? Absolutely, I'll come for a love offering. Well, Tammy, will you take this amount? If we go back and forth and they tell me that is really that's all I can do. And it really never gets to that right there because I'm not a person who's going to haggle over the money part. I'm just not. I'm a person who wants to get there so I can tell people the good news. And in the process of that, God will bless me. That's the way I look at it. And I think that if you look at it that way, you are going to be very surprised what God will do when you step out on two-footed faith and give Him your finances.
You've talked about, you've talked about this before. And we want to use the faith muscles that Christ has developed in us and refined in us in all these other areas of our life take that same approach and apply it to your speaking career.
That's right.
This part is not rocket science. We want to obey him. He will make his will known. If he is unclear, that just means I interpret his, let me not get too off on anything here. If I know I've done my best to hear him,
Yes.
and he has not given me a clear answer, then I feel that I have peace that what I had in my mind, the next step that I was thinking about, is I'm getting his approval of that next step without going way over the deep end, not moving to California, but I do have his permission to go out of the driveway.
That's right. That's right.
Continually watching him, for guidance along the way.
Yes. Yes. And and so I want to reiterate on whenever people bring up the fee part, if they say, what do you charge? What your next statement, what my next statement is, whether you feel like you're led to do it like I do or not, what my next statement is, what is in your budget? Okay? What is in your budget to pay a full-time? Now, if you're full-time, if you're not full-time, don't say you're full-time. If you're full-time, though, like what I do, then don't be ashamed to say what is in your budget to pay a full-time speaker. And then you just go from there. But there's no shame with that. There's no embarrassment from that. Mm-hmm. Do I get paid the $25 and a candle? Not very often anymore. Not very often anymore. But there was a time whenever that was just part of it. But they will ask me, like I said earlier, they will ask me sometimes, how can I generate revenue to pay? And that's when I'll bring in those. So be ready when they say that. Be ready to say, well, I can come for a love offering. Or if you charge, let's say they're thinking, and some places do this, well, we were going to charge $5 a person to come. And I'll say, well, if you charge $10 a person to come, it puts more value to your conference or your retreat or your luncheon, and it helps cover the cost. And like I said, I know that people love to go to a free event, but will they go when it comes down to it? Or will they do this? It was free anyway, and then they just don't show up, and you've bought all this food, you have a speaker, and nobody's come. It's very important to put value on your conferences, and with that, you can pay your speaker from that.
Viewers, some of you I know are hearing that and saying, that can't be true. That can't be true. That just doesn't sound right.
I know.
So, that's why Tammy's here. 7 years full-time, 3 years part-time. She's telling you she's both an event coordinator and a full-time speaker. She hosts events, including conferences that we'll talk about in just a little bit, as well as other events, and has helped many other people do that same thing through the years. And she's speaking from experience. That's why we invite specialists and experts.
Well, Patricia, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I have been, and I am, on both ends. Okay? I actually, yes, I'm a full-time speaker, but once a year, I do something with a friend of mine. She and I do it together. We do a retreat or we do a conference. And then I also, yes, am one of the owners of the Christian Communicators Conference, which is totally different than what I do with my friend Rita, and we do a retreat. But when I am working with my friend Rita and we're doing a retreat, we are negotiating pay with singers. We're negotiating pay with event venues, things like that. It is part of it. You have to get used to doing it. And if you are an event coordinator, and like I said, I'm on that end also, take care of your speakers. Take care of your singers. Do little things that make a big difference. And pay them. Pay them. I know one time I spoke at a retreat, and I spoke like 5 times that whole weekend. And when I opened the check, when I was driving home, I was very surprised that it was this very small amount, because I had worked a long time. See, what people don't realize a lot of times is how much work you put into those talks, how much time. It's not just the time that you step up on there on that date. It's all the time before that you're putting into this. It's the time that you're driving there, getting home. And it was a very, very small amount. And so when she called me the next year to do it again, you say things in a very friendly way. I said, I would love to do it again. I said, but for the time that I have to put into it, is there any way that you can budget more for your speaker fee? That's all I had to say. And she said, yes, ma'am, I sure can. And I'm going to tell you, from what they paid me the year before to what they paid me that year, and that's exactly how I said it right then, I think they probably paid 10 times the amount that they paid me. And her comment was this: we just had no idea. And sometimes people don't have any idea. Mm-hmm. But if you come across as rude about it, in this life, it's all about teaching and it's all about learning. And I just explained to her the time that it takes to write 5 talks, things like that, the time that it takes to drive there, the mileage, that kind of thing. And I've spoken for them since then too. But the most important thing, don't ever as a speaker think that you are worth this astronomical amount. Because we have to remember that we are the same as every person in the audience that we are speaking with. And if we don't see them on equal and the same as us, God has just called us to get up on a stage, to get behind a podium, to talk, to share. But we are equal with those women who are out there that we're talking with. And if we ever elevate ourselves to a higher stature than them, we've just entered a danger zone, because then we think that we are worth this astronomical fee. Mm-hmm. That it's just crazy sometimes. And there are people who have big names, who everybody would know that if I said their name, they would know. And they have sliding scale fees. They don't have set fees. They work with you all the time.
Mm-hmm. My question escaped me. I saw a response, a comment, and my question escaped. Oh, yes, thank you, Jesus. Probably half of the people that are watching us today are at the other end of the spectrum, and they're just dipping their toe in the water. And so they are wondering, how would you respond if you were having a private conversation with them and they were to say, I'm not sure if I'm worth any money at all. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that this is for me. And, the fear-based and the lack of self-confidence because they've never done it before. All of those things are from the enemy, aren't they?
That's right. Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Satan's main thing is to make you feel like you are worth nothing.
Yes.
You're worth nothing. You're not worth, they shouldn't pay you anything because you're not worth anything. His whole base behind taking you down is always centered around worth nothing. Yes. But if you will just pray about how to say it, you're going to be able to say it in such a sweet way whenever you say, what is in your budget to pay a women's speaker? Because then you put it back in their court. And then what you have to do, this is the hardest thing in the world for speakers, you have to be quiet. You have to listen. I call that the power of the pause. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You have to pause. There is power in a pause. Whenever I say, well, what is in your budget to pay a speaker? Let them say something. What we immediately think is, oh no, it's quiet. Oh no, so we want to jump back in there and we want to go, it's okay. Don't do that. That, first of all, that's not professional. What you want to do is let them talk. So just stop, power of the pause, and let them tell you what is in their budget. Because the minute that you say that, one of two things is going to happen. One, they know what their budget is. And two, they're coming up with a budget in their head really quick. But I do stress to you. Tell them what your round trip mileage is. That's important. And the way that you say for lodging, you just say, and I don't require anything fancy, but if you will make reservations for me in a safe hotel, if you will make reservations for me in a safe hotel, that is the way of letting them know that that is their part. You know, that you pay for the hotel and the mileage, and then you say, okay, now let's discuss the fee. What is in your budget?
Okay. So three topics.
That's right. That's right. And I know that for some people that what we talked about, this is the awkward conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But the more times you say it, the better you get at it.
Yes.
Nobody expects you to take your time to drive 2, 3, 4 hours or to fly somewhere and make nothing. Nobody expects you to do things for free like that. But what they expect you to do is to give them an answer. Mm-hmm. Your answer doesn't have to be an astronomical answer, but your answer has to be something so that it puts it back in their plate, mm-hmm. and then they're going to come back, and then you have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people will say this, well, what did you get paid last weekend? And I will say, now I'm not gonna discuss, I don't say it like this to them, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to discuss what other churches pay me, mm-hmm. with somebody else. But what I will say is, well, let me give you a range. Mm-hmm. I normally get paid between this amount and this amount for a one-day conference. I normally get paid this amount and this amount for a weekend retreat. Mm-hmm. That's how you do it. You have it on a scale. And for some of you who are just starting, you're saying, well, Tammy, I normally get paid nothing. So how do I say that? Mm-hmm. The way that you would say that is, well, I normally accept this to this. Okay, you have a range. If you have not been paid yet, that's where you would say, I normally accept this amount to this amount. Mm-hmm. But that's got to be an amount that you're comfortable saying out loud. And the highest paying one that I had in a long time, she called and she was asking me if I would speak for them. And she told me that Barbara Bush had spoken for them in the past, and she's going on and on. And what she's doing is buttering me up, okay? Mm-hmm. And then she tells me the amount that's in their budget to pay. I was glad they couldn't see my face because I was going, I could not imagine getting paid that amount. So I was glad she couldn't see my face. And when I gathered myself, this is what I said. I would be more than happy to speak for your event for that fee. Thank you very much. Yes. And whenever I hung up the phone, the first thing I did was call my husband, and I said, you are not going to believe what they're paying me. But, you know, that's where you also, you thank the Lord. Yes, absolutely. You thank the Lord that has just happened, because that's a door of opportunity that he opened. Just last fall, I was in the running to be a speaker for a rather large organization, and whenever they would call me and they would say, you've made the next cut, you've made the next cut, you've made the next cut. And when they told me what the budget was, it floored me. I ended up getting down to me and one other woman. I did not get it. The other woman got it. But I told my husband said, oh, I bet you were so disappointed. I said, no, I was so glad that I made it down to that they thought that I was worth that much. Mm-hmm. And that my name is actually on their radar, and they might call me next year. But the thing is, you are worth something. Don't let the enemy tell you you're worth nothing. And on those times when you do, like what I said, I'm doing that scholarship banquet for absolutely nothing because I'm giving back. I'm paying forward. Yeah. They gave me a rather large scholarship. And so as a person, they didn't even know that I had received that so many years ago because I graduated many, many moons ago. But when I blessed them greatly when I said that, because in turn, what they will probably do is they will make that a donation that I have just, what I've done is donate it back to them is probably what they will do.
Yeah. We have several comments and questions.
Okay, let's get to those.
Excuse me. Also, we're interested in knowing when and how to raise our fees, because that's an internal discussion between us and the Holy Spirit. That we're not having that discussion with an event coordinator.
Yes.
So let's see. And viewers, we try so hard to honor your time, and we also want to eke out every morsel of goodness that our faculty members have. So give us a heads up if you can stay around, because it's 15 till. And Tammy do you have a little bit of time? If we get that far and we need to run over, can you run over?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, let's look at some questions. Sherry Hunt is wondering, do you have a traveling partner that goes with you?
Sometimes I do have a traveling partner that goes with me. Be very picky as speakers who travels with you, because you want to take someone with you who will not drain you emotionally. Because you are being called to go speak somewhere where you're wanting to give these people hope, you're wanting to be on the side, you're wanting to encourage them. So make sure that you're very picky about who you take with you. With that being said, I do not require anyone to pay the expenses of someone that I choose to bring with me.
Oh, okay.
I pay for the expenses of someone coming with me.
Okay. Kayleen says that she will stick around. Sharon says, don't let Tammy go. Someone's
Thank you. You made me feel real good right then.
Oh my goodness. I love my audience. They are so good to me and so good to my company.
I wish I could see them like you see them, but I can't. I'm having to totally rely on you. Keep going, girl. Keep going.
Okay. I'm trustworthy.
If they have questions, that's right. If they have questions.
Shirley Brossius is wondering, in the events that you organize now as an event coordinator, how much do you expect to pay speakers for a 1-hour program, or for a 4-hour-long, or for a weekend retreat that has 4-hour-long sessions? So 1 hour and 4 hours for a single event.
Okay, I can tell you that whenever I plan something, when it's a retreat, I'm usually a speaker. So I don't pay myself on that. You know what I'm saying? But I always hire musicians. My friend Rita is a musician. And so we put it together. We split it down the middle because she does so much work on the retreat as well. But if we hire somebody else to come in, and let's say that we are paying a musician, a local musician, that they don't have to drive a long ways. I like to pay a musician coming in who's going to be there overnight. I like to pay them according to what you're making off of your cost. That factors in a whole lot. But $400 is what I like to pay a musician coming in who is going to do it several times between Friday night and Saturday.
Okay.
So, but like I said, it has a lot to do with what you charge. A lot to do with what you charge on the other end for people coming in. We haven't paid another speaker because she and I are the ones who do it. Okay. So I'm always paying musicians.
Okay. So that's your one outside expense, the major one, as far as individuals who are serving.
Say that again.
The musician for you in this instance is the one thing that that is your expense, not counting the lodging and the meals and everything. They're your outside guest, for lack of a better word.
And they do not pay for their lodging. And I know so many people who live near me that they're a full-time musician at things. So I pay for their round trip, their lodging, and then I'm also going to, I'm going to pay for their fee. But it varies. It's according to, I say 400 because I've done that. I've done the 400 last summer, or summer before last. But yet, if it's one where if we have 200 people, we have 20 people. If it's a one-day thing or a retreat, retreats, you have a much smaller amount of people, but they usually pay a bigger fee for a retreat. It's all balanced in, but don't ever be cheap with the people who you are hiring, especially if you're a speaker yourself or you're a musician yourself. Don't be cheap with people like that, because you want to bless them. You do. You want to bless them. And most of the time when we have one, when Rita and I do one, and I'm not saying this to glorify us, I'm saying this to glorify the Lord, they are sold out. And they sell out early. And last year we had one called Rock and Retreat for Women. And it's the first time we've done it in a retreat setting where it was overnight things. Usually we just do a walk-on, walk-off. It's a luncheon or a dinner, that kind of thing. But we said, okay, let's do this weekend thing, and we're going to do it again. But it was sold out. There was a lot less people at that. But it definitely sold out.
Okay. And if somebody was just coming for 1 hour, like a luncheon or event, and you're the host or the coordinator, then what would you expect? Ballpark.
I'm going to pay, it's according to where they're driving from.
Okay.
That has a huge, but if there's someone who is near me, and again, it's according to how many people are coming to this event, but I want to pay them at least $250. Okay.
Okay.
I want to pay them at least $250. I'm not going to pay them less than that.
Okay. Okay.
But it's just all according to how many people are coming. So if your building holds 50, or does your building hold 500? There's a big difference. If the building holds 500, I'm going to pay them more than that, because even if I gave them $1 from each of the people who've paid a fee to get in, that's $500.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side of that, if you have a retreat where you've got 25 people, you don't give them $1 for each participant on something like that and pay them $25.
Yeah.
So it varies hugely on how big is your audience.
From you saying what you're saying from both ends of the spectrum, the one who's receiving the gift and the one who's giving the gift, making the arrangements and so forth, I'm hearing you say that it's not, that the sequence isn't starting with what you're going to serve, what is the date, and when you get all down, all the questions are answered and you have everything, the only thing left is how much are you going to pay the speaker, but it's the opposite, or can be the opposite of that. Who do we want to come and minister to us, who is going to invest in us for this length of time, whatever that is, that window? Now, once we've got that number, then what are the other parameters that need to be in place? What's the venue? How many people can we hold? What are we going to serve? I'm hearing that to be opposite of what you typically is.
That is true. That is true. But I will say this: most of the people who I would hire whenever we do that once a year, they are people that I come in contact with quite often. And so a lot of times we will recommend each other. You know, there's a lot of, there's a whole, like for instance, if somebody calls me and I can't do an event, I'm going to recommend a speaker. If she's someone who I know that delivers a great message, I'm going to recommend her. Well, those are the kind of things, in addition to, they know I'm going to do that. So we're all friends in that area as well, in that we recommend it. We might pay each other to do something, but we also know that there's other benefits that come too, like recommending them to speak at different things, putting their picture up on social media and saying, she did such an awesome job this weekend. That's promoting them as well. So you're promoting them, you're recommending them. There's a lot more to a package than just a check. That's why whenever you go somewhere, I want you to listen really well. I'm not saying that in a point finger way, but I want this part to be heard. Whenever you go somewhere and you may not get the amount, here's a good example. I spoke somewhere about 2.5 hours away several years ago. And when I was driving home and I opened the check, it really was just a tad over what round trip mileage would have been. I was a little disappointed, okay? But I knew that I was supposed to go to that event. Now, this is how God works. From that event that I was underpaid at, there was somebody in that audience who called me to speak at their event, and that was the one where Barbara Bush had been, where I was on the other side going, ah! But if I had not have accepted that event, I would have never gotten the other one. So, and that was one of the highest paying ones I've ever had. That's where you have to trust God. Whenever it is a situation where it might be a little under what you thought it would be, or a whole lot under what you thought it would be, then you just rest assured that God is up to something.
That's a great example.
Yeah, it just, that's in my own life how it works. And I will tell you also, if you get a fee when you open it up and it is not very big, but yet you saw Jesus in the midst of what you said, people came to know the Lord passionately, they worshiped him. Oh man, that is a lot of pay in itself right there. I know that does not put gas in the tank. I know that. But what you do is trust in the fact that God knows what he's doing. And he used you in that instance so he can use you down the road in another one that came from this one. You have to trust that.
And you have enough faith. You've illustrated to him that you have enough faith to let him move you the way he wants to move you.
Yes. Yes. And your product table is always going to help you, Patricia. I always encourage people to have products, because if it's one where you're not getting paid very much, your product table will make up for it, because they will buy stuff from your product table.
Sharon Tedford has a question that's just related to that very thing.
Okay.
It's not exactly, but it's related. I have merchandise to sell after I've done my thing, my presentation. I sometimes need someone else to manage that table for me. If I ask someone from the church or the location to help her, collect the money and so forth,
Good question. Sharon, what I do in this situation is, if I don't take anyone with me, if I take somebody with me, then like I said, I cover all their expenses and I feed them. They stay in the same room with me, that kind of thing. But if I have to get someone from the church, someone that I don't know, or to work my table, at the end of, they are so happy to work at your table to serve you. You serve them also, though. And what I mean by that is, you say, "Can I get you something to drink? Is there anything you need?" You serve them also while they're working that for you, while you can talk to the people who are coming up after you spoke. So they're working your table. At the end, I will say to the person, "You know what? Pick anything off my table you want. That's my way of saying thank you for helping me." And they love it. They will. The most expensive things I have on my table are T-shirts, and then I have devotionals, and then I have speaking CDs. And it always amazes me, people who will just get the speaking CD, because that's the least expensive. But yet that's what they want. And they can get a T-shirt. They can get anything they want. And sometimes, like, it's according to how busy the crowd is. If you have been overwhelmed at that table and you knew that person was working their tail off for you, you give them one. I would give them one T-shirt, one devotional, and one CD, and I'd hand it to them and say, "Thank you so much for helping me."
Yes.
They love that. They love that.
Years ago, I heard that I heard some people who were doing speaker training very informally say that they don't engage, they don't collect money at their merchandise table. That allows them to not be, number one, it allows them to not be seen as a merchant. Number two, it allows them to have a private conversation for those people who come up to that table who want to engage with you, but now, you're counting the money. Do you agree with that? Or do you find is there a better way? If you find yourself in a situation unexpectedly where you didn't have somebody lined up to help you at the table?
For me, if I don't have somebody lined up to help me with a table, I will grab somebody.
Okay.
If it's, because a lot of times you need to be on the side of the table talking with people, praying with people who've come up, who've heard you speak. You need somebody else behind the table. I work behind my table a lot also, but that way, if I've got somebody else, I can go to the side, and the person that I've asked to help me, I know that God's gonna take care of you in this. I was at a church recently, and I was working it by myself because it wasn't a very large crowd. And a woman came up and she asked me if I could pray with her. There were several people at my table. So I looked at this one woman. I just think God will put a spotlight on who you need, okay? And I looked at her and I said, "Is there any way that you can help me? If you would come around here," yes. I said, "If you'll come around here and help me for a second while I pray with her." God puts a spotlight on those people that you can use. Then at the end, after she helped me for probably about 30 minutes. I said, You pick anything off this table that you would like, and I appreciate you helping me. This is what she said. Oh, no. I helped you because I wanted to, not because you were going to give me anything.
What a sweetheart.
I know. So, but God will point you to people. It's hard to work a table by yourself. It's hard. So I don't encourage working a table by yourself. You can also ask the event coordinator. You can ask them, can you recommend someone to me who can help me work my table tonight? They can get you somebody real quick. Sharon, I hope that answered your question.
It did. She said that's a great idea. Let them choose off the table and then serve them. Because she doesn't like to collect money anywhere, because she has the same situation. People come up to talk to her, hug her, encourage her, ask them to pray for her, ask her to pray for them. And that can be the most pivotal time of the entire visit, can't it?
That's right. But Sharon, don't feel funny about being behind your table taking money for the products either. Nobody is thinking bad of you for doing that. Nobody. Now, if you're charging $50 for a t-shirt, then you probably don't have a full table. But but if your prices are reasonable, and a lot of times that's what people will say when they come up to my product table, they'll say, oh my goodness, these prices are so reasonable. They don't have any problem with me doing that. But if I can always tell if someone needs to talk or if someone needs to pray with me, and that's why I'll always snag somebody or I'll have somebody waiting. Yes.
You just make yourself available. Let the Holy Spirit guide you.
Right. But you're also showing them that you don't think you're too good to work your product table.
That's a good point.
And that is, we cannot be a diva. I press that all the time, but really, you cannot be a diva. You have to be just you. We're all the same here. We're not elevated up and you're elevated down. Nah, it's not like that. Okay, another one.
Yes, Janet McHenry made a comment early on. It may be gone forever. This is part of it. My church, and she goes to a church that has about 500, invited a well-known couple to speak recently at a 3-day marriage event. It was the first time this was the first time I knew of that well-known speakers being invited. Then she goes on to say that her pastor asked her for advice on what to pay them, and she gave it, but I don't know what she said because Facebook won't show me. Talk about a cliffhanger.
You know what? If you want to, what was her name?
Janet McHenry.
Janet, if you are still with us, if you want to email me at tammywhitehurst@gmail.com, I'll be glad to tell you what I think that I would probably pay him. And I'm actually speaking at a marriage retreat in 2 weeks. And I can I can give you a little bit of information there if you want to shoot me an email. tammywhitehurst@gmail.com.
Okay. Now that event has come and gone. But
actually that event has already come and gone.
Her event has already come and gone.
You know, for the next time. Because if her pastor asked her one time, he's probably going to ask her again.
That's right. Oh, here she is. She says she's finished in it. She said to the pastor, I know that this is their income for the week. How much would you and his wife's name make in a week? That's what I think you should pay them.
Oh, that's an excellent answer.
You ain't kidding, baby.
Because what she's done is take it away from just the time that they are on the stage. And what she's done is make everyone see that there's a lot more time than stage time.
Yes,
that goes into something. Excellent answer. And I want to say also, Gail Arbogast, I think I got your name right. If you are with us, stay with us because you sent in something you wanted me to reword or to give you my opinion on, and I have done that. So stick with us, Gail. Okay.
Let's say there was something. So I'm so glad that you were still here, that you could help us with that, Janet, because that was like the perfect answer in the whole world.
Sure was.
Yeah. Tracy Crump is wondering how to find the state rate, but I think that Janet and some other people have already answered that question. If that's not true, then let us know.
You Google it. Mm-hmm. You can Google it and get the state rate.
Oh, Janet says, my pastor was very appreciative of that perspective. We have to help people, don't we?
That's right. And, we're not offending people. We're helping people. Mm-hmm. But now if you go into it with a bad attitude, then you're going to offend people. or sarcasm, I always say sarcasm is not a spiritual gift.
So true. So
And
true.
you know, being sarcastic with people will never do anything. Helping people, because I need to learn things. We all need to learn things, and we're very appreciative of that.
And we all know this, but we'll just acknowledge it right this very minute, that people can tell your heart without you saying a word about it.
That's right.
When someone has a servant's heart, they can tell, and you could say two people lined up side by side. One has a servant's heart, one does not. They both say the same words. The recipient knows exactly which is which. And they don't even have to be a Christian.
You wear your heart right here. What comes from, and there is a scripture that says, what's in the heart will come out of your mouth, and that is true. What is in the heart will come from your mouth. And you've got two people, just like she said, and they can say the same thing, but you can tell the difference. You
can. You might not be able to articulate it to someone else, but it registers in your heart.
It sure does. It sure does.
Tracy,
go ahead.
Tracy said she did not get the answer she was looking for. She got the IRS rate, but you said Google it in your state?
Google. Like for me, I live in Texas, and it's 55 cents a mile in Texas. So what I would Google is Texas state rate government mileage.
Okay.
Okay. If she puts that in, Texas, like whatever state she's in, state rate government mileage.
Right.
And it'll come up.
Okay.
Because I have to check it every year.
Okay.
It fluctuates sometimes.
Okay. Let's, Gail may not be here. She said she might not be able to. Her mom's waning. And so she may not be here. She may be here and give us comments, feedback. She may not. But let's talk about that,
okay,
what you've got for her. And then let's talk about how to know when it's time to raise your fees. And for some people, okay, $75 is raising your fee from zero.
That's right. That's right. And, I can remember when I was paid $75 and I got so excited. Because, I was at the very beginning. One time I got a Brookshire's, Brookshire's is a grocery store here. I got a little gift card for a few things, so, and then the next time I got $75.
Yeah.
So, okay. Gail.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Viewers, I don't want you to be fearful, and Tammy doesn't either, that you're going to be invited to a $2,500 speaking event. That's not, the Lord is going to protect you. He's going to give you, do you agree with this, Tammy? He's going to give you an opportunity that fits your capabilities.
That's right. That's right. And that means you're always learning. You're always trying to get better at the gift. If you start getting paid more when you start getting better and trying to make the gift that the Lord gave you the most that you can.
Yes.
That's what you do. You try to get better. You try to get better. You try to get better. Don't stay the same.
Yes.
Don't stay the same. All right, Gail, you had sent in, and I appreciate that. I know that Patricia sent out and said if anybody had some titles they wanted me to maybe give my opinion on. Gail, I would take what you wrote, and this is just me. What you said for the headline, my brain has a mind of its own. I would change that to, now, Gail, you don't have to do this. This is just my opinion. Okay, headline, my brain has a mind of its own. To me, that's more of a tagline. Okay, to me, a title only has 2 or 3 words in it. I would change that to this, brain drain. You've mentioned the brain, okay? So I would call it, well, my computer, there we go, brain drain. And then for your tagline, Gail, I would say, my brain has a mind of its own.
Oh, that's so great.
So my title might be Brain Drain, my brain has a mind of its own. And then your blurb that you wrote. I love all the words of your blurb. It's too long for a tagline, but it's perfect for a summary paragraph. And a lot of times, people, if you go and look at TammyWhitehurst.com, you will see where I have the names of the titles, a lot of things that I talk about, and then I'll have a summary. What you wrote is great for a summary that you called the blurb, but I would change that around a little bit. If you disagree with it, that's okay. If I've helped you, I hope that I have. So, and also, all of the things that I've ever talked about, Patricia, I know we kind of hit on it a little bit, but I'm one of the owners of the Christian Communicators Conference.
This
And
is for you,
we,
Kayleen. Kayleen asked this question.
the Christian Communicators Conference, we've got about five spots left that we would love to fill. It's going to be in March. If you go to christiancommunicators.com. Again, christiancommunicators.com. You can read up on everything. It's an all-inclusive 4-night stay, and included in that is everything a speaker needs, wants, every question she ever had, because it's all speakers. It's our tribe.
Mm.
And it helps tremendously. I see Patricia has it up right here, March 18th through the 21st. So if you can join us, go there, look at it, and you also get a video included with that of you, a 5-minute video, and you also get professional headshots included in the price. It literally is a prize package for speakers. But some of the things that I've talked about with Patricia are some of the things that I address at this conference as well. All right, were there any more questions, Patricia?
Not currently, but I wanted to mention the price for the conference. It ranges from $11.99 to $15.99, and that's based upon your lodging and so forth. But this is an all-inclusive price, right, Tammy?
Yes, and a lot of times you can't even get a 5-minute video for that price.
It's true. So, it's true. You're talking about...
We're talking about food, lodging, classes all day long. You have... Oh, and there's also a publisher that's going to be on site that's going to take one-on-one meetings. So there is a whole lot of stuff packed into that one price. And I know it's very expensive to get video work done, but that is part of this package, and it is included in it.
And we're talking about a conference that is for people who are, I don't want to say this disrespectfully because this can be bandied about, but you're ready to make an investment in your speaking career, okay?
That's right.
You're welcome to attend if you're just you're just thinking about it. That's fine. But
Right.
it's geared for people who have been speaking or pretty close to the beginning of their speaking career, and they want to get off on the right foot.
Yes, and we actually do have full-time speakers who come quite often because we learn from each other. And, you know, a lot of them come just for the professional headshots and the 5-minute video because they can't get that at that price. Now, some of you who are just starting might be saying, what do I want a video for? Mm-hmm. Because you need a video of yourself speaking to put on your website or to send to event planners. That's why you need one. And that's what we do when you're there. You actually will have a 5-minute video of you speaking. And some of you go, 5 minutes? What in the world can I say in 5 minutes? I know, as speakers, we talk way too long. But event coordinators, if they're trying to find a speaker, they want nothing more than 5 minutes of you. Mm-hmm. So you're putting your power-packed best stuff in that 5 minutes.
So here's the good news. You're going to smile. Nancy K. Grace says, I love
Nancy K.
She says, I went to Christian Communicators and benefited greatly. The video and headshot were great opportunities.
Thank you, Nancy K. Grace. We love you, girl.
Kay Robinson Calloway. She says, I'm excited because I have already signed up.
All right. I will see you in March.
Oh, all right. So we are ready to, we're at 4:15.
Are we already?
Yes, it's because we love to hear you and we just keep talking, but we need everything you know. So.
You know, it always goes by so fast with you, always. And I think part of that is because you make such a relaxed atmosphere where we're just having a conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. That is my goal. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are at 0 and we're moving up to 75. We're at 250 and we're moving up to 500. We're at 1,000 and we're moving to 2,500. How do we know when it's time and how do we go about that?
I think you know when it's time by how many speaking events that you are getting. If you are only getting 1 or 2 a year, you're not going to go to 2,500. It just doesn't work that way. The more speaking events that you get, the more popular. Here's a good gauge. When you are having to turn down speaking events because you're already booked or things like that, then it's time to maybe raise. And really, when I say that, you know, it's like God says, hang on a second, because you know you don't have set fees. That's true. So, but people will, here's how to answer that question. People will begin paying you more when you have a full calendar. So you really don't have to raise your fees. People will start raising your fees when they see that you are speaking so much more. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people will call me and they'll say, Tammy, you spoke for us 7, 8 years ago. We probably can't afford you now. I say this, I'm always affordable. Let's talk. And I mean that. I truly mean that. I'm always affordable. I want to be affordable to each and every budget of every church, things like that. Now, when I speak outside the church, because sometimes I speak in business settings, mm-hmm. they have to know a price. Mm. And I will tell you that whenever I went to one place in particular, and this was a learning experience for me. I went to one place in particular, and I knew the woman who was over it, and she had called and negotiated a fee with me. And when I got through speaking, she said, I want you to come back to my office for a moment. So I went back, and she slid the check across the desk at me, and then she said, if you would have said 3 times this amount, I would have paid it. But because you said this amount, that's what you get. And then she said this, she said, you should never, ever, ever, don't ever charge this amount ever again. Wow. She said, because you just made yourself look not very good. Wow. And this was in a business setting, okay? Mm-hmm. She said, business settings look at, I get what I pay for. That's how business settings look at it. Mm-hmm. And so she called me to speak 2 years later, and I thought, okay, here we go. So when she called me, and asked me, I quoted a rate about 3.5 times higher than what she paid me. And she said, done deal. So that is, and you know what she told me? She said, Tammy, you say this amount to every business. Nobody's going to balk at it. And she was exactly right. She said, you are cheapening yourself in the business field when you tell them this amount. So in business settings, it is different.
That was a very valuable conversation for you, wasn't it?
Oh, my goodness, yes. And especially whenever she slid it across and she said, I'm going to pay you what you asked for, but I would have paid you 3 times that amount. Because that brought it back to me, my responsibility for what I say.
Yes. Gail has rejoined us. Gail, we have reviewed your headline. It's about 10 minutes past from where we are right now. So when you're watching the replay, go almost to the end, but it was very valuable. You will love it.
Or tell Gail, you're welcome to email me, and I'll help you with that too.
I think we have covered enough for today.
Thank you, Patricia, for asking me to come on again. And thank you to everyone who hung in here and my goodness, listened to us talk for an hour and over an hour. So I appreciate every one of you speakers and writers out there. I appreciate what you do. Yes. Because what you do makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. You have significance. Thank you.
I agree with all of that. We so appreciate your time, viewers. We try to be really aware of it. And then the summit is a unique situation. We don't normally, if you're not used to being here with us, we don't normally run over 15, 20 minutes. That's not normal. So, right. But is well worth it as always, Miss Tammy. Always.
Thank you.
You're blessed.
Thank you for asking me.
You're a blessing every time that you come on, viewers. We so appreciate you.
That's right. Hang in there. Hang in there, speakers. Keep doing what you're doing and give God the glory.
Yes. This has been episode number 234, Titles and Tough Conversations with motivational speaker Tammy Whitehurst. I started to say Tammy Wynette. No. It's Tammy Whitehurst. Tomorrow I'll present the Right Start Online Summit report card, sharing the admin side of any online event. I'm going to be delivering on the summit. It would be applicable to other online events. Okay, lots of moving pieces, including my goof ups, because they were there. They were many. Okay, we try to be vulnerable and transparent here. Plus, and this is very, very exciting for me. You're invited to share what you liked best and what you'd like help with in the future. Do you have a task? Do you have a question? You can't figure out how to do something online. You have a question that you can't find the answer to. If you will share with me, not only tomorrow, but anytime in the future, I love serving you with the information that you want to learn. So help me by telling me what you want to learn. It's easier that way than guessing.
That's good. That's real good.
You're more likely to get the information that you're looking for if I know that what you want. Okay? This is a partnership, a two-way street. It's always that way, isn't it, Tammy?
That's exactly right.
Viewers, we're here every weekday, not just during the summit, every weekday. 12
and
Pacific.
She's great. Great topics. Great topics.
Thank you so much. 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. For you. We're doing this for you to help you get your message out so that other people can hear about Jesus Christ, so their lives can change, and for some, their eternities will change. And if you happen to be watching this for the very first time, please go to marketersonamission.com, enroll for the summit. It ends tomorrow, so the window is small, and you will have full free access until December the 31st for all of the summit recordings. Come on now. What a deal.
That's a deal. Great deal.
Thanks very much. See y'all tomorrow.